This is More to Say with Randy Naughton. Interesting conversations with interesting people.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us on another episode of More to Say with Randy Naughton, now sponsored by the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis. It is one of the most haunted places in all of North America, in case you haven't heard. It goes back decades with all of these hauntings. But did you know now they have great events, weddings, receptions, lunches, dinners, you name it, all kinds of cool stuff. Lempmansion.com is where you want to log on to so you can see everything. Maybe have a little event there yourself. We'll get to more of that coming up. Right now, though, I thought this would be interesting to talk about because we're getting into the heavy travel holiday season. People taking flights home over the rivers and through the woods, trying to get the best airline deals. And inevitably, we hear about travel nightmares from many, many people out there, whether their flights got canceled or delayed, or they're stuck at an airport overnight. And what do I do now? And they call the hotline and they call the airline and they just keep getting text messages and they're not getting any answers or any help. Well, there is an organization that does help you. It is the largest airline passenger nonprofit. It's called flyersrights.org. And we welcome in from flyersrights.org, Andrew Applebaum. How are you, Andrew?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I thought this would be rather timely to talk about because, you just heard me rattle off a bunch of the nightmare scenarios that people go through when they're traveling and they just, want to get home and have their holiday with their family. Tell me about flyersrights.org. How long has this organization been a thing? And what specifically do you do for passengers?
Flyers Rights is the nation's largest nonprofit airline passenger advocacy organization. We advocate for passengers and for aviation safety, whether that's at the DOT, Department of Transportation, before Congress, or in the courts. And we also provide passengers with legal information, information about their rights. And we also operate a toll-free hotline for passengers who are stranded or who need our help.
And that
Flyers Rights
hotline,
has been
I'm
around.
sorry, I'm gonna go ahead and give that hotline number. It's 877 Flyers 6, right? That's the one?
Yes,
Okay.
that's our
Now,
hotline.
okay, cool. And that we'll talk more about that. But I interrupted you. Please continue.
Flyers Rights was founded back in 2009 when our founder was stranded on the tarmac for over 9 hours. Thousands of passengers were stranded in Texas and across the country. And at the time, there were no rules and no protections for passengers about tarmac stranding. So the airlines would strand passengers inside the plane on the tarmac so that they wouldn't be able to get off the plane and maybe go to another airline and get another flight.
Wow, that's amazing. And I have heard nightmare stories about that, where toilets are overflowing because they can't let anyone off. People are running out of food. People are fainting, having medical issues, you name it. On the hotline that you mentioned there, Andrew, 877 Flyers 6. When people call the hotline, you said you offer them legal advice. What specifically do you offer them? Like, what is the most asked question when people call in?
The information that we give passengers is about their rights to refunds in the cases of cancellations or significant delays. We also give them advice how to proceed with the airline, what to request. Oftentimes, passengers will have missed connections, and so we inform them what their rights are. Sometimes we help them find alternative flights.
Well, the thing is that I think that is most common for people. Oh, we overbooked. We're going to offer you a $200 stipend to take a later flight or another flight another day, 200, 400, whatever it might be. Some people jump on that chance. But what is the biggest misconception that passengers have, do you think, when their flight gets canceled or delays? Are there other remedies other than a $200 credit?
Right. Passengers may not understand that in the case of a cancellation or significant delay that is caused by the airline, such as a mechanical problem or a staffing problem, they are entitled to a refund. And
Like
also
100% refund? All your money?
for the unused portion of the ticket, yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. And now if you go to the gate agent, which, I've seen people do that and say, I know my rights, blah, blah. The gate agent says, well, we can offer you $300 and a smile. I mean, how do you push back on that?
Right. As an example with denied boarding, if you are bumped from your flight, you are owed compensation if your alternate transportation gets you there more than an hour later. And so that is in cash or the original form of payment. But the airlines will try to offer you flight vouchers instead, basically airline script, and that comes with blackout dates and expiration dates. And so we tell passengers not to accept the vouchers unless it's a really good deal because they are entitled to cash compensation. And a lot of times, and I've dealt with this myself in the case of delays or cancellations, I've asked for vouchers when there's been a significant delay of more than 3 hours. And I tell them that the problem was mechanical. And sometimes the gate agents will deny that. And so there's really nothing you can do except write to the airlines after the fact. And so when passengers run into a whole host of problems, we always recommend that they complain to the airlines, but then also complain to the Department of Transportation.
So there are differences here with delays or cancellations, mechanical, staffing, and weather. Is there an argument at all when weather affects any of this?
When there's a weather issue, you're kind of at the mercy of the weather.
Yeah.
The airline has to do their best job in getting the passengers to their destinations. But if weather does cancel the flight, then you are owed your money back in a refund.
Okay, Andrew, let's talk about all these videos we are seeing online now with people fighting with other people on planes, whether it's pushing your seat back. Let's stop there. Pushing your seat back. Here's my philosophy. I paid for that seat. If it offers me 6 more inches of comfort by reclining a little bit back, I'm entitled to recline. But other people have problems with that. Don't infringe upon my space. I paid for this space. What is the right answer here?
It's a very contentious debate, and it's really caused by the nature of the shrinking seats of the airlines now. Seats are smaller in terms of pitch and also of width. And at that same time, passengers are getting taller and larger. So it's really becoming an issue between passengers, and it's also a safety issue. So when it comes to reclining, personally, I don't recline. And I think anything can be solved by just communication, just by talking to the other person. But at the same time, I don't have a problem if the person in front of me reclines. But I try not to do that myself.
Well, it's time for another Lemp History Minute, sponsored by the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis. Did you know that in 1980, Time magazine published an article in which they named the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis one of the most haunted places in all of North America? Many say the Lemp Mansion is haunted because 4 members of the very wealthy and successful Lemp family died in that mansion, 3 of them by suicide. Now, since those days, many people have dined at the mansion or even stayed overnight, had events there, and a lot of them sort of reported some very eerie occurrences. Faces peering out of windows, unexplained eerie events, noises being picked up by paranormal equipment. Today, the Lemp Mansion is thriving as a restaurant, as an event space, as a really cool place to go for all the fun events they put on, scavenger hunt, boozy bingo, tours, you name it. And this is the perfect time of the year to book you and your friends at the Lemp Mansion, whether it's just to have a lunch or a dinner, or if you dare, stay overnight. And if you haven't visited the Lemp in a while, do check them out and all the great events they have. Their website, lempmansion.com.
Hello, and thank you for listening to More to Say with Randy Naughton. When you're done with this episode, come check out another fun podcast called Mostly Superheroes, a variety talk show featuring me, your host Logan, Andy the Giggler, Scotty Scoop, and guests just like Randy Naughton, Steve Ewing, and Sean Gunn, and many more. Getting your fix for Marvel, Star Wars, TV, film, and inspiring stories from people in our community. Find more at mostlysuperheroes.com, search Mostly Superheroes in your podcast app and on YouTube, and ask your smart speaker, play the latest episode of Mostly Superheroes, the podcast. Enjoy the rest of this episode of More to Say with Randy Naughton, and we'll see you over at mostlysuperheroes.com.
Yeah, it's a matter of common courtesy, and some people aren't. And of course, all the phones come out and everyone starts recording. And then the moment goes viral all over social media. There's that. And I know that your organization, flyersrights.org, you guys actually lobbied the FAA for better and more acceptable standards for airline seats. Where does that stand?
We have a rulemaking petition, a proposal still pending at the FAA. And we filed a few in the past, and we actually won in federal appeals court. The court said that the DOT or the FAA had to provide actual reasoning for denying our petition. And this issue really hits home for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And Congress itself, in the most recent FAA Reauthorization Act, actually did require the FAA to revisit the issue and possibly promulgate minimum standards.
And what you lobbied for specifically were wider seats or more comfortable seats or more seats or fewer seats? What?
We proposed bigger seats, both seat pitch and seat width, and we based it on the size of Americans. So we aim to have seats that fit the middle 90% approximately of the American population, understanding that these seats might not fit everyone.
Right.
But when you look at the extent that current seats fit the American population, it's closer to a half or 60%.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable in many situations. I will say that. I don't travel a lot, and I kind of don't ever travel during the holidays. I like to drive, but I haven't done that much either. But what is happening right now with flyersrights.org? What are you petitioning other than the size of the airline seats? Are there any other issues on the front burner?
The DOT has recently undertaken a lot of action to protect passengers. They've published dashboards that compare between airlines what you're owed in the case of a delay or what their family seating policies are. We're also seeing a refund rule because in the past, passengers were entitled to refunds for significant delays, and that was undefined. But now the DOT is defining that as 3 hours for domestic flights. And there was one rule that the DOT passed, a landmark rule, that would require the airlines to disclose crucial ancillary fees up front. That would include first check bag fee, change fees, cancellation fees, and carry-on fees. But the airlines challenged that in federal court, and so it's been blocked pending a fuller trial.
So basically what you're asking for is show me what I'm paying for everything, a laundry list up front, but then the FAA or the airlines are fighting that. So we're surprised with a big total at the end. Is that what they want?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's called drip pricing, and it's what some airlines do to lure the passenger in with a lower price, hiding the full price. And then by the time the passenger invests a lot of time and clicking, then they discover that it's a much higher price.
I don't like that, Andrew. I don't like that one at all. You did mention family seating. I want to talk about that, where again, reading online, where I paid for a seat for myself, and I have my daughter, and I asked this person, can I have your seat because I want my child to sit next to me. This has caused some viral moments, and it's like, wait a minute. Like an airline like Spirit or Southwest, you kind of just pick your seats and you get the luck of the draw. But other airlines, you book them and you pay for them next to each other, but sometimes that's not a thing. So how do families navigate this, and how do passengers navigate it who might be confronted with a mom who wants to sit next to their crazy 3-year-old?
Well, before the family seating rule, the best advice would be, if possible, to pay extra to guarantee that you sit next to each other. And that's not always possible financially, or it's not always possible with the airline. But what this new rule will do is it will guarantee that the airline books you next to your young child. And so if you're faced with the situation, again, it's a very difficult situation because some people will be like, I paid extra for this specific seat. I
Right.
prefer the aisle or the window. And so it's really the airline's fault and it's the airline's problem, but they push it onto other passengers. And that's kind of it's the reason behind all of these passenger confrontations. It's really a symptom of the state of air travel right now, that there's small seats, a lot of delays and misconnections, and that's just not a pleasant experience for travelers anymore.
No. And you add crabby people, that doesn't help at all. It's they're stressed, they want to get where they're going. It's the holidays, all that business too. Let's talk about the website, flyersrights.org. I went on there, and there is a place not only for people to store your hotline number in case there's a problem. Again, that number is 877-FLYERS-6. But there's also an opportunity for passengers to kind of join your website as well to keep up with everything. How do they do that?
Yes, people can sign up on the website. They can subscribe to our newsletter. And we're starting to offer premium memberships in the future, which is more dedicated hotline access and more insider information. We're really excited about that. But on our website, available to the whole public, we have a Know Your Rights section, which covers topic by topic what your rights are as a passenger.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we'll make sure we put the website on the link when we drop this episode. Okay. One bit of advice for everybody traveling over the holidays. Based on your expertise and everything you've learned and everything you've seen, what is the one bit of advice that travelers can carry with them into the airport and on the plane?
I think the biggest piece of advice in general is to know your rights. And as a specific piece of advice, I would say to book early flights and book direct flights when possible. Sometimes direct flights aren't available or they're more expensive, and so that's not possible. But I always book early flights starting at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m.
Me too. Yeah.
Because those are less likely to be canceled, less likely to be delayed by previous flights. So it's just usually a better experience. You just have to wake up earlier, but the goal is to get to your destination sooner.
Yeah, you can nap sooner. There's that. So before we let you go, I got to let everybody know that you are based in Washington, D.C., right? But you have St. Louis roots. Tell me about it.
I was born and raised in Chesterfield, and then I left for Washington, D.C. to go to college and to law school at American University and Georgetown. But yes,
No
I'm originally
kidding.
from Chesterfield.
All right, cool. You still a Cardinals fan, Blues fan, all that stuff?
I'll always be a Cardinals fan. I'll never change.
Awesome. Well, that was a happy accident. When we talked about having you on today, I had no idea you're from St. Louis. So that's awesome. A bit of a homecoming for you. So Andrew Applebaum from flyersrights.org, thank you for joining us. We will make sure everybody knows the hotline as well. Put it in your phone if you're traveling over the holiday. 877 Flyers 6 is the number. So if you get bumped or there's another problem, at least call them to find out what your rights are, because Andrew said that's the best piece of advice he can give is know your rights. Thank you. Happy travels.
Thank you, Randy.
All right. Thanks so much. And that's going to do it for another edition of More to Say with Randy Naughton. We want to thank you for joining us. And thanks to our sponsor, the Lemp Mansion here in St. Louis. And thanks to our producer, Logan Janis, who is also one of the hosts of the Mostly Superheroes podcast. So you want to check that one out as well. Be sure to follow on all of my social media channels, like, subscribe, share. You know what to do. Until next time, thanks.
This has been More to Say with Randy Naughton. Interesting conversations with interesting people. Be sure to like or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.